The first session that we recommend doing is about the client's self-image. Whoops, if I can write properly. So self-image. So what's a self-image? So our self-image is essentially who we think we are. It's our identity. And the way I like to think about it is imagine that in your mind, unconsciously, which means you don't really think about it too much, but it's there, you actually have like a visual image of who you are as a person. And attached to that image, you have all the stories of everything you've ever been through, of who you believe you are. And our self-image is created by what's called our conditioning. So this is how to think about it, is imagine that we can go back into the past along here. And this is your birth. This is when you were born. You came into the world. And everything that's ever happened from there to now is called your conditioning. Now, we've all got conditioning. You might want to call it programming. I think conditioning is a little bit of a better word. Programming sounds like someone else has been there. So conditioning just simply means the family that you grew up in has helped add to your self-image. The brothers that you had, the sisters that you had, the brothers or sisters that you didn't have, the mother or father that you had or didn't have, who they were as people, how they acted around you and responded towards you. Your schooling, right? If maybe you were bullied in school or you're really successful, the early relationships that you had, your religion, if you were part of a religion, your external community, where you grew up in the world, what was happening in the world at that time, the government, were you around any wars or anything like that? Everything that you've experienced has given you an opportunity to make decisions about the external world. And what happens is that we unconsciously place meaning on everything. Right? I'll give you an example. We place meaning on things, and then that determines our self-image. We decide who we are by looking out into the world and saying, what does this mean about me? I want you to write that down because that's an important statement. It's what people do, and it's how we create our self-image. And we'll talk about how to change it. I want to break this down into really what it's made up of. So we all look around the world, and especially when we're younger, like ages 0 to 7 is a defining time. 0 to 7, if you think about how young we are at 7. 0 to 7 is what's called the imprint period. Inside this time, we're very much building our self-image. Also from 7 to 12 and 12 to 14, we're still building it. We're still building it now, but it's a different kind of stage. The most of our self-image is actually created based on what happened when we were kids. And in those times, the meanings that we placed on the external events. So it wasn't necessarily just the external events that happened in our life that determined our self-image. It was the meaning we placed on it. And I'll give you an example. Love this story. It's a great example of two brothers. Two brothers grow up in the same household. And they grow up in a household that's violent. So their father is violent and he's an alcoholic. And he is abusive. And these two brothers grow up in the exact same household. Now, they get interviewed as adults, and as adults, they've grown up. One of the brothers ends up in jail. He followed the same direction as his father. The other brother ends up a very, very successful entrepreneur. He's doing absolutely amazing, and he lives a great life. They're both interviewed, and they're both asked the exact same question. How did you end up here? Both of them answered the same way. They both said, with an upbringing like mine, how could you not end up here? I think that's a very amazing story. And I think it's a useful story because they both had the same upbringing, but they both placed different meanings on it. And that meaning created their self-identity. Now, the two major frames that I want you to think about is this, is that one person set off to create a self-image that was full of lack. It was a victim mentality. The other person created a self-image that was full of abundance. It was an empowerment mentality. Now, these are options to us, and you might have been born into a family that had a lack mentality. You might have been born into a situation that had an abundant mentality. I think most people that I bump into have a little bit of a mixture of both. I think it's really common for people to be born into a situation where maybe the parents did their best, but they maybe had a victim mindset, or they had a lack mindset, or maybe you even in just a community that had a bit of a lack mindset, like there's never enough, and we'll never make it, and so don't reach for your goals, and why would you even bother? And that's the mentality of lack. And so what we want to create in our self-image, and I want you to write this down, the goal that we're going for here is we want to create a self-image that's abundant. Abundance is the foundation. A lot of people come to me as a coach, and one of the challenges that they have is they have a lack mentality. I'll explain to you, a lack mentality is this, is they say, well, I'm not good enough for my goals. I feel less than other people. I'm not good enough for success. I don't feel like I ever will achieve anything great. I don't think it's possible for me. This might work for others, but it's not going to work for me. You don't know my story. I've been through too much. This is a lack mentality. Think of it like this. When kids are born, they're not born with lack mentalities. They're born with abundant mentalities. When you see a child go out and achieve their dreams and their goals, and they put on their favorite costume and they say, I'm going to be a superhero, I'm going to be a pilot, I'm going to be the president. They have an abundant mentality. And then eventually they start hanging around with people that have a lack mentality, and they say, well, you can't do that. You need to get a safe job. You can't achieve all these goals and dreams. You better see it as it is. You better see reality. You better just get any job that you possibly can. And I think that when people hear that enough, they start to listen. It's called learned helplessness. So they've done studies where, for example, if they have fleas can jump real high. You don't want to know how high they can jump. But if you have fleas and you put them in a jar and you put the roof on the jar, the fleas will start jumping up and trying to leave the jar. But after a while, they give up. They learn that there's no point even trying anymore. You take the lid off, they won't jump out. It's called learned helplessness. It's this setting we have where if we kind of hit the roof enough, we give up. And then that becomes people's identity. Their identity is that I've given up. I'm not moving forward anymore. And we need to change that. We need to change that for ourselves. I know, for example, for me, I took myself through this and I thought, okay, I resonate with that. I think I've got a little bit of a lack mentality. I need to upgrade my self-image and start to create a relationship with myself where I reconnect with my abundance. Tell me what you're resonating with so far. I'm going to break down the next couple of steps here. Sharon Jones says, my friends are part of the TCI community. She always brags about the generosity and the abundance that we bring. Thank you. Marie says, this is so true. Brenda said, oh my God, that's my life. So you're resonating. Mel, this is so eye-opening. This is a guest. If I read out guest, it's just because you haven't logged in with your name, so I'm not sure of your name. It says you're taking lots of notes. I think I grew up with too much of a lack mentality, and you're here to learn how to change that. That's good. Vivian, love Moodle. Hey, Vivian. Vivian's one of our students. Moodle's our online course area. It's so good to start anywhere and start listening until it's your new addiction. Jenny, would love to see coaching in action. Joy, you make it sound so much simpler than all over the thinking that I've been doing. I get that. Well, when you're doing it on your own, it's really easy to get lost in your thoughts. Even I can do that. That's why we need to connect with each other. That's why we need each other. We need to rely on each other. So, first of all, the goal for our self-image is to be abundant, which means this. It's to have a self-image where I am worthy of being around other people. I'm worthy of achieving the same level of success that others have achieved. I'll give you an example of how I've overcome some lack mentality. And this might seem a little bit trivial and simple, but it's a good example and it does lend to this. So I always grew up, and my mum is wonderful and she did her best, and I don't have any regrets or any blame or anything towards my family. I love my family. And my mum was a single mum, and she raised me and my two sisters, and she did that on a single income, and I know it was really challenging for her. And when I grew up, I never had enough of anything. So we never really had enough money, and we didn't have much choice, and everything was a hand-me-down. And my mum did great to be able to give me all this stuff. But the reality that I grew up in is I always felt like I never had enough. And I remember even things like I had shoes that didn't fit me properly, or we couldn't afford the right amount of food, and so people had to donate us food and things like that. and there wasn't that much choice. So when I was hanging around other people that had more choice, I felt kind of inferior. I felt like I wasn't really as good as them. And, really it was a mistake because we never actually want to judge our self-worth by our net worth, which is what we actually have. What we have outside of us doesn't equal our self-worth. Our self-worth is just our relationship with ourselves. That's something that we can change. It's separate to the outside things. But I remember that the first time I started traveling for the coaching institute here, and we started go with the team, and we'd travel around Australia, back when you could travel, of course. Isn't it weird saying that? I would travel around Australia and we'd run these events, and we'd run events like this, and we'd go all around Australia, and we'd go to New Zealand as well. We go to Tasmania, and it was awesome. I have to say Tasmania because it's, Mike lives in Tasmania, who's over here. It is a part of Australia, Mike. And we'd go to the lounge, right? We'd go to the Virgin Lounge. And I'd never been to the Virgin Lounge before. And I get this is a small thing, but it helps us understand what it means to have a lack mentality. I remember the first time I went into the Virgin Lounge, because I was allowed to go in, I thought to myself, I don't feel like I should be here. I feel weird about this. I'm used to flying economy, sitting at the back of the bus, that kind of thing. I had a lack mentality that said, I'm not worthy. I'm not as good as these other people who are sitting in the airport lounge. And I thought to myself, I reflected on that, and I thought, this self-talk that I've got right now, this is part of my old self-image. This is part of my old identity, right? I've got this old identity that says that I'm not enough for these great new experiences. I'm not enough for this new thing. And so I needed to become aware of that and say, I'm going to let that go. That old self-image, I've outgrown that self-image. I want you to think about your self-image like it's a skin, right? It's like you're a reptile, and you grow and you become better and you let go of that old skin. Your self-image is the same. You don't have to keep it on. Beautiful moment today, actually. I was driving in my car this morning, and we're starting to get like that, the autumn leaves here in Melbourne, because it's like 4 seasons in one day or in 1 minute here in Melbourne. And I was sitting at the lights, and I saw the tree, and there's this big, beautiful tree, and all of a sudden, it just let go of all of its leaves. It was just in this big, big gust, and they were flying all across the road. And I thought, isn't that beautiful? Even nature updates its self-image all the time. It just lets go of the old. As soon as it outgrows the old, it just lets it go. So one of the things that we've got to do when we upgrade our self-image, we've got to be flexible. You want to be flexible. You don't want to be the type of person who's rigid. And he says, no. The way it's been is the way it's always got to be. And I can't change. This is who I am. Don't be like that. Excuse me. Be the type of person that's flexible, that is willing to shed your skin. Be the person that's willing to let go of your old leaves and become the better version of yourself. That flexibility is what's going to help us grow. Brenda says, aha moments already. Christina says, my glass is half full. Abundance is a choice. Guest says, yes, you resonate with the lack mentality. Julianne says, we have choice to be a victim or to be successful despite our past. It's never too late to choose abundance. Good on you. I have a 23-year-old son with the victim mindset. He has learned that helplessness. Well, this can help him. Gina says, I am enough. I am worthy of love and success. Good on you. Alan, this is really valuable. Elaine says, I totally get it. Sally says, abundance is not something we acquire. It's something we tune into. I love that. And Santi says, thank you for sharing this. I'm not the only one. And Owen says, I'm hearing you. Good to see you, Owen, as well. Good for you to be here. I think Owen's one of our students, unless there's a different Owen. So let's break this down. How does this actually work? Well, the first part of our self-image is this. So it comes from our history, but just like how it came from our history, we can create it the same way we created it in the past. It's about developing self-awareness. So the first thing is this, is we want to become aware of our I am statements. So our I am statements are our identity statements. So for example, I am a mother. I am a father. A lot of people say things like this. I'll meet people in a training and they'll say, I am a people pleaser. I am a procrastinator. And I always say to them, don't claim it like it's a badge. Don't claim it like you're using that language. Let it go. You're not a people pleaser. You just may have the tendency to want to please people every now and then, but that doesn't make you a people pleaser. Your actions aren't who you are. They're just some things that you do. You're much greater than your actions. You're better than that. You're much more, it's like you're bigger than that. You're so much more than just a title. Our I am statement's our identity. Now underneath that, so we've got our self-image, and we're going to break down all of these. Then we have this. Then we have our self-talk. Our self-talk is a reflection of our self-image. So what do we actually talk to ourselves about? When we go and do new things, for example, we're all here to learn how to become successful coaches. Do we start our journey by saying, I'm never going to be good enough? I can't do it. I should know better. This is our self-talk. It comes from our self-image. Or is our self-talk saying, you've got this, you can do it. Go and achieve your goals. Get started now. The time is right. Vivian says, wow, great insight. Sally says, I have had to totally, I've had that happened to that on a tree in my street. Thank you so much. Mike is typing it and you just got to type it better. That we all, as a family, went out and ran through the leaves. I think it's beautiful. It's really nice. So we have our self-talk, which is what's going on in our head. We're all talking to ourselves all the time. It's good to know that as well, because it makes you feel less crazy, because we're all talking to ourselves all the time. Our self-talk then determines our emotional state, which is the emotions that we feel. And the question here is are we reacting to life or are we responding? Are we reacting in life where we react in a way where we regret what's going on? Do we regret our actions? Do we blow up? Do we move away? Do we withdraw from life? Do we go in too hard? Or do we respond to life in a way where we're using conscious choice? Are we proud of the actions that we're taking? Are we making decisions that are moving us towards our best self and our future self? Or are we making the same mistakes and we're on a hamster wheel, moving in repeat all the time? Our emotional state then determines our actions, or you could say our behaviors. I used to be a personal trainer. Every now and then I'd meet someone who maybe needed to lose 40 kilos, right? That's a lot. I'd meet someone who needs to lose 40 kilos, but when I met them, I'd say, what's your goal? And they say, well, I think I'd like to lose 10 kilos. I'd be happy with that. And I always used to ask them, I'd say, well, how come? Because you could do more, right? I'm not saying everyone has to be super skinny or anything like that. I'm just talking about like a healthy weight range. And I would say, well, you can get to a healthy weight range for you, and maybe that's another 20 kilos. And sometimes they go, yeah, but I don't think I can. I don't think that's for me. That's a lack mentality. That's them saying, I don't think I see myself as a successful person. I don't believe that I am, right? I talk to myself like I'm not, and I feel emotions that confirm these things. I also act in a way that is in alignment with our self-image. So the actions that we take will always be in alignment with our self-image. And this is the thing. We need to work on our self-image now and then take actions that are going to move us towards our best self. So I want to take you through a little bit of an exercise right now. And what we're going to do is I've got an interview I want to share with you. I want to tell you about an amazing book that I want to talk about. And then we're going to break this down more throughout the rest of the evening. We've got a coaching session coming up. But this is the first part of the exercise. I want you to ask yourself this question. I want you to complete some I am statements for yourself. But I want you to take yourself into the future. So imagine now that you can go into the future, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. And I want you to imagine that you've had the best 10 years ever. You've been coaching, you're making a difference, you've got a deeper relationship with yourself. You've created the life that you want. It's even better than what you have right now. And I want you to give me the answer to your I am statements. Don't go with maybe just the first thing that comes into your head. I know when I first did this exercise, I think I would say, well, I am not good enough. I want you to go outside of that and future pace yourself to a place where you are claiming the I am statements that you know that you can grow into. They might not even feel true right now. Let me know and jump in on the comments, and I'll share with you what some of them can be. These are some of the ones that I've set. I am capable. I am enough. I am lovable for who I am. I am worthy of greatness. I am worthy of great things. I am just as worthy as other people. I am strong. I am confident. I am powerful. I am successful. I am a great mother. I am a great father. I am a great brother. I am a great friend. Now, when I first created these I am statements, I felt out of connection with them, right? I felt like they were just words, and I thought, I don't know, like they don't seem true to me. They seem like just statements that I'm saying, and I want to share that just in case you resonate with that. Maybe they connect with you deeper because you've been doing some work on yourself. But in the beginning, it's common for you to say these things and go, I don't know. Maybe then a voice comes up and self-talk comes up and goes, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's normal. So we want to get clear on our I am statements, and I want you to write them down, and they become like goals. The next thing is this. I'm going to read them out in a moment. Then the commitment is I want to invite you to start making your life in a way where you're taking actions towards making these I am statements true. So you want to take actions that will help you know, Simon said, I'm worthy of love. So how can you take actions towards helping you become worthy of love? Mal says that I am worth it. Valerie says that I am more than enough. Catherine says I am outstanding. Christy said I'm contributing. John said I'm capable. Bianca said I'm capable of handling the uncertainty in my life because I have deep trust within myself. Then the next question is how do we make decisions that are in alignment with this truth? Because life is not about finding ourselves. Life is about creating ourselves. And we can create ourselves now in this moment. Every moment is a new moment for new creation. That's the first part of this. I'm going to share with you an interview now from one of our successful coaches. I want to talk about a book in a second. And then when we come back, the next part is we're going to start looking at how we start to manage our self-talk, our emotional state, and our actions. But this has been the first part of it. We've set the frame for this. I trust that you are enjoying this. If you are, if you're loving it, let me know. Jump in on the comments and really share with me right now what you're loving about this.